The rain had been falling without mercy since sunrise, as if the sky itself mourned with me. I stood frozen beneath a black umbrella that shook in the wind, watching the coffin carrying my mother descend slowly into the soaked ground. Around me, sobs broke through the storm. Everyone cried. Everyone but my father. He hadn't come to shed a tear. Instead, he was thousands of miles away in Hawaii, smiling beside his newest lover, champagne glasses raised mid-toast, as though celebrating my mother's death. When the last clod of earth hit the lid, I forced a goodbye through clenched teeth. That night, thunder rolled across Portland while I sat alone in my apartment, staring at photographs of her that were already beginning to fade. Then my phone buzzed. "I'm not dead.
Come to the cemetery now."
The text came from her number. My mother's number. My throat tightened. Cold spread through my fingers. I grabbed my keys with shaking hands and ran to my car, my pulse hammering. I didn't know if I was driving toward a miracle or straight into insanity. My name is Grace Miller, and until a week ago, I thought my life was simple. I lived in a small apartment overlooking the Willamette River, worked freelance as a designer, and had a mother who called every Sunday just to remind me to eat breakfast. I used to roll my eyes at her messages. "Take your vitamins, sweetheart. Don't skip dinner again." I never imagined I'd ache to see those words one more time. The morning she died felt ordinary. I was finishing a project when an unfamiliar number lit up my screen. I nearly ignored it, but something urged me to answer. "Is this Miss Grace Miller?" The voice on the other end trembled. "I'm calling from Portland General Hospital."
"I'm so sorry."
"Your mother passed away this morning. Cardiac arrest." Everything inside me went still. The room tilted. Color drained from the walls.
"No, y whispered, shaking."
"That's not possible." "She was fine. She was painting today." "I'm sorry," the nurse repeated softly. Her words echoed long after the call ended. I stood at the window, watching rain trail down the glass, my reflection pale and unfamiliar. My mother, my best friend, my anchor, was gone. And yet, deep down, something felt wrong. She'd never had heart problems. She exercised, laughed easily, ate healthier than anyone I knew. How could someone like that simply stop breathing? When I called my father, his tone was flat. "It's true," he said. "Evelyn's gone. The doctor said it was sudden." "That's it." I choked, disbelief turning to anger. "That's all you have to say?" He exhaled impatiently. "Grace, she's dead. Cry if you need to, but don't cause a scene. I'll handle the paperwork." The line went dead. In that moment, my grief twisted into something darker. A quiet voice inside me insisted he wasn't mourning. He was relieved. The thought sent ice through my veins. 3 days later, the rain still hadn't stopped. It felt like Portland itself refused to let her go. The cemetery smelled of wet soil and lilies. Black-clad figures huddled beneath umbrellas, murmuring condolences that drifted past me unheard. My eyes remained fixed on the coffin, on the gold letters engraved into it. Evelyn Grace Miller. My throat burned. "You didn't deserve this." Behind me, whispers moved through the crowd. "Where's Richard? He didn't even come?" Unbelievable. The night before, my father had sent a single message, busy overseas. "Handle the funeral.
"No apology. No sorrow."
Just business. As the priest spoke, my legs trembled. My cousin's little daughter, Ava, tugged gently in my sleeve. "Aunt Grace," she asked softly, "if Grandma's in heaven, can she see us?" I knelt beside her, tears thick in my throat. "Yes, sweetheart. She can see us. She's watching." A fierce gust flipped my umbrella inside out as the coffin was lowered. The priest's voice dissolved into the relentless rhythm of rain. Each drop struck the earth like a heartbeat that would never answer mine again. When everyone else left, I stayed behind, kneeling in the mud before her grave. "Mom," I whispered, "if there's any justice in this world, he'll pay for what he's done. I promise." Lightning split the sky, bright and violent against the darkness. I took it as a sign. That night, soaked and hollow, I drove home. I showered, slipped into one of her sweaters, and sat in the dark scrolling through my father's social media.
Then I saw it.
His newest post showed him smiling on a bright beach, his arm wrapped around a young woman with perfect hair. The caption read, "New beginnings." My chest tightened. My hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. While I stood under gray skies burying my mother, he stood beneath a golden sun beside someone else. Something inside me shattered. In its place, something colder began to grow. Sleep never came. Every creak in my apartment sounded like a whisper. The storm battered the windows, and no matter how hard I tried, I saw my mother's face in that coffin, too peaceful, unnaturally still. I scrolled through old photos instead. Mom painting in the backyard, laughing with soil on her hands, teaching me how to bake apple pie, holding me after my first heartbreak. Each memory cut deeper than the last. Then my phone buzzed again. I almost ignored it, but when I saw the name, my breath stopped.
Mom.
Her number, the one I hadn't been able to delete. I opened the message. "I'm not dead.
Come to the cemetery now."
For a long moment, I stared at the screen, my mind scrambling for logic. A mistake. A cruel prank. But my body had already decided. I threw on my coat, grabbed my keys, and ran into the storm. Rain slammed against the windshield as I sped toward the cemetery, headlights cutting through sheets of water. Every instinct told me to turn back. Yet I heard her voice in my mind. "Trust your heart, Grace. Even when your mind is afraid." The gates emerged through the fog. The lamps flickered weakly, shadows stretching over the gravestones. I parked and stepped into the wind. "Mom," I called, my voice unsteady. Only rain answered. Then I saw movement near the willow trees, a small figure hunched beneath a soaked coat. "Mom," I whispered, raising my trembling flashlight. The beam found her face.
Pale.
Fragile, but alive. Her hazel eyes shimmered with tears. "Grace," she breathed. My thoughts shattered. The flashlight slipped from my hand, falling softly into the mud. I stumbled forward, heart pounding in my ears. "Mom, how are you alive?" She reached for me. Her hands were icy, but real. "It's me, sweetheart," she whispered. "But you can't tell anyone I'm alive." Rain poured harder, blurring the world until life and death felt indistinguishable. I stared at her, skin pale, hair plastered to her face, yet her eyes burned with life. "Everyone saw you," I choked. "I saw you. You were gone." She pulled me into her arms. For a moment, the storm disappeared. The grave vanished. All I felt was the faint beat of her heart against mine. Then she leaned close. "Grace, we can't stay here. Someone might see." We hurried through the rain to a small silver sedan hidden beneath the trees. I climbed inside, shaking. "Mom, please. What's happening?" She gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. "Finally," she whispered. "Your father."
Richard.
"He tried to kill me." The air vanished from my lungs.
What?
"He's not the man you think," she said, tears filling her eyes. "For months, he's been pressuring me to sign over my shares. The art studio. Everything in my name. When I refused, he said I'd disappear." The words hit like a strike of lightning. "That's not possible," I stammered. "He's your husband. He's my father." "He's a businessman, Grace," she said quietly. "He sees people as investments or obstacles." And I stopped being profitable. Then she told me about the night she supposedly died. She'd been feeling chest pain for days. The stress had been unbearable. She collapsed while painting. The housekeeper panicked and called an ambulance. At the hospital, my father arrived, not with fear, but with documents. He wanted her signature before she was too weak to hold a pen. When she refused, he left without another word. But she wasn't alone. One of her former students, Martha, worked there as a nurse. Weeks earlier, Martha had noticed bruises on Mom's arm and sensed something was terribly wrong. "She helped me," Mom whispered. "Martha altered the hospital records. She made it appear like my heart had stopped. The body everyone saw wasn't mine. It was a mannequin. I covered my mouth with my hand. You faked your death. Tears slid down her cheeks. It was the only way to survive, Grace. Thunder exploded overhead, rattling the car. I thought once I disappeared, you'd be safe, she said. But when I saw his post, New Beginnings, I knew he wouldn't stop. He'll take everything. Even you. My heartbeat pounded louder than the storm. Then we stop him first. Her eyes widened.
Grace, no.
You don't understand what he's capable of. I do, I said softly. That's why we have to end this. She studied me for a long moment, as if seeing someone new, not her little girl, but an equal ready to stand beside her. Finally, she nodded. All right, but we move carefully.
No mistakes.
The storm began to weaken, rain tapering to a soft drip from the trees. In that quiet, I understood something. My mother hadn't died in that hospital. She had been reborn. And now, I was stepping into that new life with her. By morning, the city felt colder, sharper, as though it sensed what I carried inside me. I hadn't slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my father at the hospital, calm, detached, as if my mother's death had been nothing more than a transaction. Mom stayed hidden in a safe house outside Portland. Martha checked in constantly. I promised not to tell anyone. Not my best friend. Not the police. Not yet. But patience had never been my strength. At 8 a.m., my father called. His voice was smooth, almost pleasant. Grace, darling, I'm finalizing your mother's estate today. I just need your signature on a few forms. My hand tightened until my nails dug into my skin. Forms? Routine matters, he replied lightly. Nothing for you to worry about. Stop by the house tonight. I will, I said. Then I texted Mom. He's making his move. Her reply came instantly. Let him think he's winning. That evening, the house I'd grown up in felt like a stranger wearing my childhood memories. The marble floors gleamed. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. But the air felt heavy, wrong. He greeted me with his practiced smile. You look exhausted, Grace. Losing sleep over old things. Over dead things, I answered coolly. Or people who were supposed to be. He paused, something sharp flickering in his eyes. Watch your tone. We sat in his office. He slid a thick folder across the desk. These are transfer documents for your mother's assets. Since you're the sole heir, I need your signature to consolidate ownership. Then we can move forward. I flipped through the pages, my pulse racing. My mother's signature appeared again and again. Perfectly forged. You copied her signature, I said slowly. He gave a soft laugh. Why would I need to forge anything? She agreed before she died. I stood up. That's strange. I remember her saying she'd rather burn it all than give it to you. His expression hardened instantly. Sit down. I'm not signing. Grace, he said quietly, leaning closer, I know you're grieving. Don't force me to take necessary steps. That tone, cold, commanding, had shadowed my mother for years. My hands shook, but not from fear. You already killed her once, I said. He froze. What did you just say? His chair scraped as he rose. You won't get away with it. For a split second, panic flickered across his face. He snatched the folder, breathing harder. Get out.
Now.
I turned toward the door, but in the mirror across the room, I caught sight of something, a small safe behind his desk, keypad partially hidden by a framed family photo. A faint smile touched my lips.
Sure, Dad.
I'm leaving. That night, sleep didn't come. After midnight, I used the spare key I'd kept since childhood and slipped back into his office. The safe opened on the third try. Of course. The code was my mother's birthday. Inside were bank statements, transfers to offshore accounts, falsified contracts, and a single flash drive. I copied everything onto my own drive and left without a sound. By the time I reached my car, my hands were trembling. I texted Mom. Got it. Her response came immediately.
Good.
Be careful. He'll know. The message had barely sent when another appeared from an unknown number. You think I would notice, Grace? Ice flooded my veins. It was him. The street was empty, only rain, streetlights, and my reflection shaking in the window. Then my phone rang. His voice flowed through the speaker, calm.
Too calm.
You were always intelligent, he said. But you forget who taught you how to deceive. I forced my voice steady. You don't scare me. A quiet chuckle. Don't I? Come home, Grace. We'll discuss this. Otherwise, I'll make sure you regret stealing from me. Stealing? I shot back. You mean collecting evidence? Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Then he spoke softly. If you're smart, you'll destroy it. Or we may be planning another funeral. The line went dead. I sat frozen, staring at my pale reflection in the windshield. Then I heard my mother's warning in my mind. He'll come for everything. Even you. Not this time. I drove straight to the safe house. Mom met me at the door, still in her robe. Grace, what happened? He knows, I said, dropping the flash drive onto the table. We move now. Offshore accounts, forged contracts, fake transfers, it's all there. Enough to ruin him. She looked at the drive, then at me. If we go to the police, he'll find us before they act. I drew in a shaky breath. Then we make him fall on his own. Over the next 2 days, with Martha's help, we sent the evidence anonymously to federal investigators and financial authorities. Mom contacted an old friend, Charlotte Wells, an attorney, who began preparing a formal statement for when everything surfaced. But the storm arrived sooner than expected. 2 nights later, headlights sliced through the darkness outside the safe house. Mom pulled back the curtain and gasped. It's him. A pounding shook the door. Grace. His voice thundered through the wood. Open up. Let's end this nonsense. Mom's fingers tightened around mine. Don't. He's dangerous. But I was done being afraid. I opened the door. He stood in the rain, drenched, fury blazing in his eyes. His tailored suit clung to him like a dissolving mask. Where's she? He demanded. I blocked the doorway. Who, Dad? The wife you buried? The woman you tried to erase. His jaw tightened. You don't understand what she did. She ruined me. She loved you, I said quietly. You ruined yourself. He shoved past me, shouting her name. Evelyn. Mom stepped into view at the end of the hallway.
Pale.
Fragile. Unbreakable. I'm here. He stopped dead. Even the storm seemed to pause. Color drained from his face. No, this isn't possible. You're dead. You tried to make me dead, she replied calmly. He let out a fractured laugh, shaking with rage. You think you can take what's mine? My company? My legacy? You are nothing without me. I stepped between them. That's where you're wrong. In the distance, sirens began to wail, growing louder. His eyes darted toward the window. Panic spread across his face. What did you do? Mom didn't move. Exactly what you taught us. Cover your tracks. But this time, you missed a few. Moments later, red and blue lights flooded the house. The door burst open and agents rushed in. Richard Miller, one of them, shouted, "You're under arrest for financial fraud, money laundering, and attempted murder." He turned to me, arrogance collapsing into desperation. Grace, tell them they're wrong. Tell them. I met his eyes and slowly shook my head. You buried the wrong woman, Dad. He lunged forward, shouting, but the agent seized him, forcing his arms behind his back. The rain outside roared, swallowing his fury. As they led him away, he cast one final glare at Mom. You'll regret this. She watched him go, her voice barely audible.
No, Richard.
I already did. When the door closed, silence settled over the house, broken only by rain dripping from the roof. And I realized the shaking in my hands wasn't fear anymore. It was relief. Mom folded into my arms, her quiet sobs muffled against my shoulder. It's over, she breathed. I held her tighter, feeling the steady thrum beneath her skin, the same heart that was never meant to beat again.
No, y whispered.
It's just beginning. Outside, dawn slowly spilled across the soaked ground, washing away the night. For the first time since the funeral, the rain had stopped. The weeks that followed blurred into a whirlwind of breaking news alerts, subpoenas, and screaming headlines. Real estate tycoon Richard Miller arrested for fraud and attempted murder. Every network ran his photo. The once polished face of success now framed beneath the words criminal investigation. Mom and I watched it all from a quiet hotel room far from Portland, keeping our distance from the chaos. She spoke little, her fingers curled around a cup of tea that always went cold. One morning, she finally broke the silence. "When I married your father, I believed he was a man who created things," she said softly. "I didn't realize he was someone who tore them apart." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "He won't tear us apart again." 3 months later, the trial began. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, attorneys, former partners who once toasted his success and now whispered behind closed lips. My father sat at the defense table, his suit rumpled, his hair disordered, the aura of certainty stripped away. He never once looked in our direction. When my mother stepped onto the stand, the room fell into absolute silence. "I faked my death," she said clearly. "Not for revenge. For survival." A stunned murmur swept through the gallery. Pens scratched furiously. Cameras clicked. She told them everything. The threats, the forged documents, the night he told her she would be more valuable dead than alive. Her voice never wavered. She didn't cry. She didn't have to. The truth carried more weight than tears ever could. When it was my turn, I stood before the jury, then looked directly at the man I once believed was untouchable. "My father taught me courage," I said quietly. "I just don't think he imagined I'd use it against him." At last, his eyes lifted to mine, and for the first time, I saw fear, not of prison, but of losing control of the narrative he'd crafted for all of us. Our lawyer, Charlotte Wells, laid out the evidence, the offshore transfers, the fabricated contracts, the recorded conversations with my late grandparents. Piece by piece, the empire he built collapsed under the weight of his own deceit. When the jury returned, the courtroom seemed to stop breathing. Guilty on all charges. He closed his eyes as the verdict landed.
His shoulders sagged.
There was no outburst, no protest, only silence. The judge's voice was steady, unyielding. "Richard Miller, you are sentenced to 30 years in federal prison." The gavel struck, echoing like the last crack of thunder after a relentless storm. Mom released a trembling breath, as though she'd been holding it for years. I reached for her hand. She held on tightly, tears shining but refusing to fall. As officers escorted him away in handcuffs, he glanced back once. For a fleeting second, I saw a shadow of the father I used to adore. Then he disappeared. Outside the courthouse, camera flashes exploded. Reporters shouted over each other. "Mrs. Miller, Miss Miller, how does it feel to take down one of Portland's most powerful men?" Mom paused, fatigue softening her features. A faint, weary smile touched her lips. "It doesn't feel like victory," she said. "It feels like freedom." By the next morning, headlines called her the woman who came back from the dead. But to me, she wasn't a miracle or a headline. She was proof that truth, no matter how deeply buried, always finds its way back to the light. Months passed. Some mornings, I still woke hearing the phantom echo of the gavel. The nightmare had ended, yet its shadows lingered. We moved to the Oregon coast, far from Portland's glass towers and memories. Mom bought a small, weathered cottage perched near the cliffs, its white paint chipped, its garden blooming like forgiveness itself. Color returned to her days. She began teaching local children to paint, filling canvases with wild daisies while the ocean breeze carried away what tears remained. One afternoon, I found her near the shore, brush suspended mid-stroke. "What are you painting?" I asked. Her lips curved gently. "Freedom." I opened a small design studio nearby, Evelyn and Grace Designs. It wasn't just a business. It was a promise. We would build something honest, something no one could buy or betray. Life settled into softer rhythms, quiet mornings, salt air, a peace that felt earned. Still, the past occasionally knocked. Journalists sent letters. Investors offered money for her story. She declined every one. "I don't need to relive it," she would say. "I just need to live." One golden evening, as the sun slipped behind the waves, we sat together on the porch, teacups warming our hands, the scent of salt and damp soil drifting around us. I looked at her, the question that had lingered finally rising to the surface. "Mom," I said gently, "I never asked who sent that text the night you came back. The one that led me to the cemetery." She turned toward the horizon, eyes catching the last shimmer of light. "I didn't," she said quietly. I frowned. "What do you mean?" "It came from your number." She shook her head. "My phone was off, Grace. Martha took it that night. I didn't have it." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Only the steady hush of waves against rock filled the silence. A chill passed through me, not fear, but something deeper. Something almost sacred. Maybe fate itself had sent that message, refusing to let a lie stand. Mom reached across the table and took my hand. "Whatever it was," she said softly, "it saved us." I smiled through the tightness in my throat.
"No, Mom."
"You saved us." In the fading light, I saw her not as a victim or even a survivor, but as someone entirely reborn. Later, as I drove home, the sky burned in deep orange, the same shade as her favorite daisies. I rolled down the window, letting the ocean wind rush through the car. For the first time in years, I felt no shadows trailing behind me. The truth had set us free. We had once lost everything: money, reputation, even family. But from the ashes, we found something far rarer:
Peace.
As the road curved away from the shoreline, I whispered into the wind, "Good night, Mom." And in the quiet hum of the tires and the distant rhythm of the waves, I could have sworn I heard her voice again.
Soft.
Steady.
Alive.
"Good night, sweetheart." The storm had passed. We were finally free.